Hello crafty friends, I'm Julie. Welcome back to my channel. Do you collect 6x6 pattern papers and then you're trying to figure out how to use it on a 12x12 layout? Well, if that's you, I have a great video for you today. Today we're going to go through how I select my photos, my sketch, and how I'm going to use 6x6 papers on a 12x12 layout. It's actually quite easy. Do you know why? Because the creative design team came out with a brand new sketchbook. This sketchbook is specifically designed for 6x6 papers on 12x12 layouts. So to be honest with you, starting this layout was not difficult. Where did I start? I started with these really cute photos. These are original photos. And I wanted to scrapbook them using this great collection right here. So I looked through the book and I landed on this sketch. So you can see here that I've got my 4 photos. And here, because this was an original photo, I had to crop it down quite a bit. But I think that I can place them like this on my layout. And it's just a little bit different, but I think it's going to work out just fine. So I have my sketch, I have my photo placement. The next step in the process is to pick your pattern paper to match your photos. And I decided to use this 6x6 pack. It is called Beautiful Bokeh and it is gorgeous. Look at all of these colors. I'm pretty sure I can match my photos here. I do have a lot of blue, so I am going to use these sheets right here, and you have tons of them because they're 6x6. So if I put them beside my photos, you can see that they look really good. So I've got the blues, and then I decided to use this one here. This one here has a little bit of everything. It has yellows, greens, blues, and these photos are a bit of a mismatch. This is a milestone album and we are on, I think, milestone number 8. And I like the bouquet look on this one. I'm not going to use it on both sides because then it would be competing, but together this way it looks pretty good. Now I have the pattern papers selected for my sketch, and I do want to bring in some solid colors of cardstock. So I'm going to look at my sketch, I'm going to look at my pattern papers. I'm going to eliminate a few colors off my desk to make it easier on myself. And I'm always keeping an eye on my photos because that's what needs to stand out. This is a little card sampler that I created for myself, and I can't tell you how much time I save when I just go through this little sampler. It's got the name of the color on it, and I can just, like thumb through this and really look at my photos and match up some cardstock. Now, obviously, I'm going to pull in some blue. Usually I don't do that. I don't really pull in the primary color. I would go opposite if you want. But because these photos are dark, like all of the backgrounds are pretty dark. These photos were taken 24 years ago, and I didn't have a lot of wiggle room if you want to edit them digitally. So these are the original. I'm thinking that a pop of blue, which is kind of in a lot of the photos, let's bring back the sketch. I'm thinking that that would look really good. I haven't landed on what I want to select for piece D and E. The reason why there's 2 pieces here is because we are using 6x6. I might just bring in cardstock for that piece just so that it matches my layout, but I'm off to a good start. I have my photos, I have my sketch, I have my 6x6 papers selected, I have the supporting cardstock selected. The next step in the selection process is, what am I going to do to embellish this page? Now, there's a few prompts here. There's balloons, there's stars, there's scallops, and I'm thinking, okay, there's a lot of things here on this sketch. Let's see if I can focus on that visual triangle. Do you see it? There's one here, here, and here. I started looking through all of my stamp set because I wanted something to support this layout. Now, as I said to you, this is a milestone album and we are at month number 8. And I've got my colors and I'm just needing something. And to be honest with you, the stars and the balloons here are not going to cut it. Those are just there to help you kind of think along the way of how are you going to create some movement on your page without distracting from the photos. I went through my stamp collection and I pulled out this one right here. This was a stamp of the month, I believe. Yes, it was. And I pretty much got this stamp because of hashtag Janice made me do it. I will link her video down in the description box below and you will see how she colored these cute little bunnies. So I thought, you know what? Bunnies are cute and they kind of look really good for baby layouts. So I thought, okay, let's try a little treatment on these little bunnies. And you can see that I've stamped them already. I was trying out a few things. The first thing I pulled out was my very favorite die set, which is Spotlight on Nature. And I pulled out the very large one and this one here. I wanted to keep the same pattern and it happened to match perfectly with these little bunnies right here. So this is how this translated and I think that it is just adorable. I'm going to have one right here and then they were facing opposite ways, which was perfect. Let me move this out of the way for you. I'm just going with the cluster that you see here. So this one is going to go, I'm going to have a piece of cardstock. This one is going to go right here. And then this cute little mouse is going to go right up here. So you've got your visual triangle. And I think that that's going to look really, really good. Before I bring in all of the cut pieces for this layout, let me show you how I created these cute little bunnies on this circle. We have our image right here and I'm going to color it in. So this has been stamped on watercolor paper and I'm going to do a watercolor treatment. I just found that it looked really nice and soft and it's super, super easy. I did stamp the image using early espresso and I did let it sit overnight. This is not a watercolor friendly ink, but you can use it if you are kind of staying inside the line and not adding too much water. So they were all stamped using this color. And the reason why is because all of the backgrounds in my photos are really, really dark. So let's start with the bunny. The bunny is done with pecan pie. I'm going to add just a little bit of ink. I'm not pressing on the barrel. I want this to be as dry as possible. And I'm just going to go in little flick motions and I'm trying to stay on the inside of the stamp line, if that makes sense to you. It can bleed and it might a tiny little bit. So that's why you want to keep your brush as dry as possible. But it just goes on really, really nicely. So I'm going to add a little bit more darker shades at the back here. And you can see that I'm just kind of wiggling the paint around. Now the next step here is I'm going to add some water and I'm going in little circular motions here. I don't want to have too much water on my water brush because I know that that brown, that early espresso will bleed a little bit. So I'm giving it a little bit, but not too much. And even if it does bleed, because it's brown, and that was one of the reasons why I picked that color. Had I done it in black, I think that it would have shown a little bit more when the ink was transferring. And because the little bunny is brown here and it's transferring a little bit with the brown, I think that it works really, really nicely. So I'm just bringing that color down because the center of him, I want it to be a little bit lighter. And then I'm going to make his foot a little bit darker. So this water brush that I have here, I am not pushing on it. I am just dragging that ink across, and I'm trying to be mindful that if I touch the edges, I will get a little bit of bleeding from the ink. So I'm staying inside the lines, which is not always easy, but it is completely doable. And do you see that when I'm wiggling that color around, it totally looks like watercolor. Like it's got all of those little nuances that you want when you're doing watercoloring, and it's not that difficult. You just have to be patient and you will get really, really nice results. I've been on a kick lately where I've been doing watercoloring a lot. I don't know if that happens to you. And I'm glad that I was, because this was just really easy for me to turn these little bunnies into embellishments for this layout. And I think that looks really good. So I'm going to remove all of the color off my brush. And we're going to move on to the next color, which is Petal Pink. And I'm going to add that inside. Oh, I forgot his little arm. I'll come back to that. I forgot this little guy right here. I'm going to come back here and I'm going to add a little bit of pink inside the ear and his little nose right here. And why not a little foot? That's it. That is super easy. So for the flower, I purposely chose blue because of the color that I have in my photos. So this one here is a little tricky because you want to try and be as dry as you can, but you still want to drop some color on the flower. And I'm kind of going outside the lines here a tiny little bit, but I think that that's going to be just fine. So let's go back to the pecan pie before I do the grass. Let me see here if I have blue. No, I do not. So I'm kind of getting most of the water off. And I'm going to do his little arm. There we go. So before I do the bottom part here, I'm going to bring in my brush and I'm going to go in, actually I'm going to go in with this color here, the palmy blue, and I'm going to ink distress all around this circle so that it gives it kind of a place to land. So we're going to just go in, and I like that it really highlights the detail of this spotlight on nature dye. It is so, so pretty. And we're going to go around here. And that looks really great. Do you see? Even like that, it looks really great. But you might have noticed that I have some script on this one here. So I brought in this stamp set here, Elements of Text. And you know what? This was, again, hashtag Janice made me do it. I like the influence that she has on me sometimes. So this is what it looks like. I would have really liked it to be a clear stamp because I would have been able to really position it well, but I'm still learning how to stamp with cling stamps. So this almost fits. So we are going to stamp that onto the bunny. So I created myself a mask, and you can see here that I've tried it once before. And you know what? I would probably recommend that you do this step before coloring all of your image in, just in case something goes sideways and you don't have a nice printed image. So I've got some scratch paper here on the side. I'm looking at the orientation because there is one, and I'm just lightly tapping this stamp set, and I want to make sure that it is straight. So I'm going to go right on top in the center as much as I can. And we're just going to stamp that in there and see what we get. Isn't that cute? It reminded me of, you know, Peter Rabbit and the story that goes with those little bunnies. I like the small detail. It just looks really, really great. So the last thing that I need to do for this one is bring in a little bit of green. So let's bring in that green color. And I'm just going to add it right here to the bottom. Now, normally when I do something like this, I would not die cut my image. I would leave it on my solid piece, but I found that because I wanted to stamp and I wanted it to be somewhat in the center, and I also wanted to position my little bunnies here, I thought that it was better and it was easier for me to add the blending of the blue, the stamping, and the coloring, and I'm quite happy on how they turned out. Do you see that? Those will make perfect embellishments on this layout. So I will color in my little mouse, which is going to be done very much the same way. You can see here that I stamped the mouse, and then I did stamp this on top. Everything is nice and dry, so we're going to repeat that process. And then we're going to move on to assembling this layout. Let's take a look at the project and where we are at the moment. Now, I've loosely tacked down all of my pieces and I think that it looks really, really good. Let's pull out the sketch, and you can see here that I've got my sketch. And remember at the beginning I was saying I wasn't sure what I was going to do with my photos. I decided to mat this photo a little bit bigger, and this one here I'm just going to keep it white to match these ones on this side, and that's perfectly fine. The reason why I'm doing that is because I really like the pattern paper at the back and I want that to show more. Now, I love my embellishments. I think that they look really good. This one here, I'm probably going to pull it out to the side and trim it when I finalize everything. When I was looking at my clusters, and you know, they're just 3 big circles, this one here was a little small, so I cut another one, and that's the beauty of Spotlight on Nature. You have tons of circles that you can change up, and I also brought back this gorgeous stamp set right here, and I decided to stamp it in the center and add a little bit of distressing, and I thought that that looked good. Now just hang tight, and I might change this because I couldn't land on that strip. Remember at the beginning when I was kind of auditioning some of the cardstock, I had a darker blue and I went to the palmy blue, and I pulled back this stamp and I did stamping with this one here and the splatters. So let me move these out of the way. I think that this looks really, really good, and you can see here when I remove that piece that these are my 6x6 pieces, but take a look at how this looks when you use those stamps. So I used this one right here, so let's take a look at it here. And what I found out is that it was leaving a little bit of a gap in between the words. So I brought in this one and I filled in the gap, and I thought that it created a really nice look. It's just a little bit darker now that I've added some of the ink, but I think it's perfect for this layout. So we're going to bring these photos back. This is going to go up higher because I want it to be on that piece. Now, because I really like that, I thought, you know what, let's try something else for this one. I do like it, but let's try something else. So let me move this out of the way for you. I'm going to bring back the circle. So this is the same circle, and I'm going to use this one right here, which is one of the splatters. It's this one, not the long one, but the other one. And we're going to do some ink splattering. Let me bring back my very messy scratch piece of paper. I'm going to bring back Palmy Blue, and we're going to try and do splatters on this one. I just wanted to kind of experiment with this. Oh, this looks really, really good. And it fits perfectly on this size of circle. Now you'll see that I'm creating kind of like a circle pattern in the middle, but that's not going to matter because my little mouse is going to go on top. Look at that. I like that. I like the splatters. We're going to add a little bit of blue on the edges. And I'm going to bring back that page, and we're going to look at this option as opposed to using the script. So let's bring this one back. This photo's going to go here, something like that. Now I have this piece here, and it kind of looks funny when you see it this way. But this I want underneath the photo, and this I want on top. I like it. I really do like it. What do you think? The splatters or the script? Oh, this is hard. It's hard sometimes. They both look good, but because my title is a little bit darker, I think I like the splatters. I like the splatters. We're going to go with that. Let me know which one you would have picked, but I think we're going to go with the splatters. And I like that I can do one underneath and one on top. Okay, I think we're pretty good. I did cut my title on my Cricut, and I will list in the description box below the fonts that I used to create this title. Now, the last thing that I need to think about is my journaling, and that's going to go right here. And I was thinking, I think I'm just going to print it right on here. Remember I told you that I did tack these down in the center? I think I'm going to put this into my printer, and I'm going to print my journaling right on this piece. I'll be right back and I'll show you how that looks. We are in the home stretch. I just have to add this back to my page. I did go on my computer and I printed my journaling right on this piece of pattern paper. And you can see that I create a box. I type in my journaling that I want to do, and then I just take my cut piece and I put it right on top, and then I print it again. Now this is where I realized that this is month 7, not 8. I don't know if you caught that. I usually catch those mistakes when I do my thumbnail photos, so I'm glad that I caught that. So the only thing you have to be careful of, depending on the type of washi tape you use, just carefully pull back on an angle is preferable, and you will have your journaling block done right on your pattern paper. And I really like that. So this is going to go right here. Tuck everything. I did print this in early espresso to match the color that I printed the little bunnies. And my last, I guess, decision to make here is, do I want to ink distress all of the pieces? I usually do that, but I think because this is a baby album, I want to keep it maybe a little bit more light. I was going to possibly ink distress everything using pecan pie, but you know what? I think I'm going to go with it. I'm going to leave it the way it is. I really do like it. I'm going to adhere everything down, and then we'll take a look at the completed pages. Let's take a look at the layout now that everything has been adhered down. And a T-ruler is definitely going to be your friend because you're dealing with smaller pieces of paper. It just makes it nice and easy to line things up. For this sketch in particular, I started with the center of these two pieces, and then I worked my way around my embellishments because they are quite big. I had to make sure that I had enough space for them. I did trim this one off, and I think that it looks good. It's always nice sometimes to trim things off to make them fall off the page. Now the last thing that I want to do is add a few bling. And I'm going to use these ones here. They are called Riverside Irregular Pearls, and I think that they are the perfect accent for this layout. You see that you have some that are a little bit more blue, white, pink, and then green. I'm going to use these ones here. So I think I'm going to add some outside of my circle. I don't want to add more to it, so I'm going to add some here. I have 2 sizes to work with, so I'm going to go 1, 2, and 3. If I can pick this one up. There we go. We have that. Let's move that over a tiny little bit. So you've got this. I could put some here because it's going to draw your eye to the title. So I can repeat that 1, 2, 3. So we're going to go 1, 2, and come on, little guy. 1, 2, and 3. So you've got that going on here. And then I think I'm going to put some up here. So I'm going to cross over and I'm going to add some in this corner. You don't have to add a lot. I find that just a few here and there really works when you are doing a simple layout. So I think I'm going to call this layout done. I love the way it turned out. I love the 6x6 paper. It's got a great color combination. I love this new elements of text. I was able to use the great splatters. I was able to create my own pattern here, which turned out really, really nice. I've got my title, my journaling, and let's not forget these embellishments. They were all colored in with ink, and I think that they look good. It's just the right amount of whimsy on this layout, and it doesn't overpower what's going on the entire page. Well, that's it for me today. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, don't forget to give it a big thumbs up. I hope that you've picked up a few helpful tips here that will help you in your creative journey. Don't forget, this is a video collaboration with the creative design team, and I will put the playlist right here at the end so you can watch all of the beautiful projects that we are doing all week long using 6x6 papers. Have yourself a fantastic day, and I'll see you next time. Bye for now.